بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. لله تبارك وتعالى. Inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala, we're going to continue where we left off yesterday on section A 4.3 on page number 10. And we were talking about the approach of the scholars in understanding the verses and the hadiths related to the attributes of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in terms of giving a figurative interpretation or not. And the author mentioned that the majority of the theologians, those meaning the scholars of the latter generation of the Muslims, the majority of them said that these verses should be interpreted in a figurative way that befits the majesty of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And here I want to say something. Every time we study, you have to think of Islam in context. And Islam's going to look different for everybody. It's not going to be the same for every people. What do I mean by that? The foundations of the religion are the same. The beliefs, the practices, the manners, the behaviors, the aspects of spirituality, all of that is the same. But the way it is applied in one's daily life is going to have to take in consideration people, environments, circumstances. All of that will determine how those general religious rules are applied on the ground. It's important to understand that. At the end of the day, we have to live this tradition. And all of our circumstances are not the same. The rich is not like the poor. The healthy is not like the sick. The free one is not like the slave. The male is not like the female. The white may not be like the black. The foreigner may not be like the native. The traveler is not like the resident. So when you look at the rules of the religion consider all these things. The intelligent person is not like the unlearned person. They don't look at things the same. So whenever you're learning the religion, keep all these things in mind. They're very important in terms of how the religion is going to be applied on the ground. So when we're talking about this issue in particular, understand that people are not going to be the same in relation to it. The one who has access to Islamic scholarship, to classical books, to Arabic language, to living scholars, is not the same as the one who doesn't have access to that. They're not going to see things the same. And oftentimes when I read and I study, these thoughts come to my mind, especially when you look at communities historically and globally. You'll see this at play all the time. And one of the things that has affected our communities a lot is that we don't realize this or pay much attention to it. And if Islam is going to spread and reach people, a da'wah calling to Allah Tabarak Ta'ala needs to have this at the forefront, and the one who's calling's understanding. It's very important. Don't be so narrow-minded. None of us. Be wide in your view of things. It is very helpful to see the wideness of Islam and how it is suitable for every time and place. But that's when you understand Islam. So it's important that we try to understand this deen correctly. So in regard to this, you have those early scholars who said, the latter scholars, excuse me, who said that these verses, they should be interpreted. What was the main reason that they said that, figuratively interpreted? Is because the time and place and people they were dealing with. They took that into consideration. So they were dealing with people who were not familiar with Islam, as a lot of them were new converts as Islam spread. They were not very strong in the Arabic language, so they didn't understand the various aspects of the language in terms of usage and metaphors and meanings that can be expressed in different ways. They were not familiar with that. And there was the fear and the reality, if you study Islamic history, that some misunderstood the intent of these verses and these narrations from the Prophet ﷺ, and they understood them in a way that contradicted the foundational creed of Islam, which is that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala does not resemble his creation. So due to that, they felt what is more befitting in such situation is figurative interpretations. So that's that first group. Naam, go ahead. Bismillah, let us start. That the author mentioned, when I say the first group, that the author mentioned, because he's going to mention the early Muslims next. Go ahead.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, others say that such verses should not be given a definitive interpretation, but rather their meaning should not be discussed, and the knowledge of them should be consigned to Allah Ta'ala Most High, while at the same time believing in the transcendence of Allah Ta'ala Most High, and that the characteristics of created things do not apply to him. For example, it should be said, we believe that the All-Merciful is established, quote unquote, in Arabic istawa, as discussed at B1.3 on the throne, Quran, Surah 20,
Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arsh istawa.
Ayah 5. But we do not know the reality of the meaning of that, nor what is intended thereby, but we believe of Allah Ta'ala Most High that there is nothing whatsoever like unto him. Quran, Surah 42, Ayah 11. And that he is above indwelling in created things, hulul, as discussed at W7, or having the characteristics of temporal contingent existence, huduth, as discussed at W8. And this is the path of the early Muslims, or the vast majority of them, and is to say this for a person is not required to enter into discussions about this. When one believes in Allah Ta'ala's transcendence above created things, there is no need for debate on it, or for taking risk over what there is neither pressing necessity nor even any real call for it. But
So
if the need
the second position, which really is an earlier position, is the position of the early Muslims, as-Salaf, in which they said these verses and these narrations should be recited as they were revealed, while believing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is transcendently clear from being attributed with attributes of created things. And full stop there. So what was their position? Affirming what has come to them through revelation, meaning the Quran and the Sunnah, related to the attributes of Allah in the Arabic language, and leaving the reality of the meanings, what is intended, among the multiple meanings that could be applied to those attributes, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without resembling him to the creation, and stop right there. That is the position of the majority of as-Salaf, those early Muslims. However, there were those among as-Salaf, for instance, like Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, and Mujahid, his student, and others, who did give figurative interpretations. Likewise, among the Khalaf, there were those who left the true meaning and understanding to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, while declaring his transcendence beyond created things, and they did not engage in ta'wil. So when we say the Salaf didn't do ta'wil, that means the majority of them. And when we said the Khalaf did ta'wil, that means the majority of them. It does not negate that some among the Salaf did ta'wil and some among the Khalaf did not do ta'wil. Is this point clear? Is this point clear for everyone? This book, its basic text is the Shafi'i madhab. However, this English translation contains legal rulings from more than the Shafi'i school and issues outside of al-fiqh. The author wrote this, the translator, the author wrote the book in a way that it would be a comprehensive manual for someone to learn their religion in one text. So it contains many issues outside of jurisprudence, outside of al-fiqh, according to the Shafi'i school. In my honest opinion of my reading, and I don't claim to have a comprehensive reading of all English literature, but of all the books I've seen written about Islam, my honest opinion is I've never seen a book as well written and documented as this book. As an overall approach to understanding Islam and learning religion that we could practice. This is my honest opinion. I've seen other books, they're good, but you say, I wish it had that, I wish it had that, I wish they would have did this better. That's for every book. But this book, I believe no matter what madhab you have, you should have this book in your library. That's my honest opinion, especially as an English-speaking person. Especially as a person who may not have access to living scholars and living teachers. I believe this book would be a great benefit to anyone who really wants to learn about Islam and understand it in a classical manner. This is my honest, unbiased opinion, because I'm not talking about because it's Shafi. I wish that a book like this was done in every school, but it hasn't been done so far. But I wish that was the case, that we had one in the Hanafi school, the same format, in the Maliki school, in the Hanbali school, in the Maturidi school, in the issues of tenets of faith, in Tasawwuf, and the same research was done with the scholars of each school with the same level of excellence. I think it would be a great service. But the Malikis are falling behind. What do you want from me? uh, so here's the book. Uh, um, but there are books, in every madhab that you can benefit, and that's something we need to do. We need to emphasize on these formats in every school in our communities, right? And that's what I mean when I say, I'm not saying be Shafi'i. You can be Hanafi, you can be Maliki, you can be Hanbali. Just be a good Hanafi and follow it properly, and a good Maliki and a good Hanbali, and it's okay. The Risala is not written by Imam Malik. The Risala is written by Ibn Abi Zayd. And it is a Maliki book in Maliki fiqh. But even the translation is not done at this level. I wish it was, but it's not. Uh, there is a translation, but uh, it's not at that level. The research is not done like this. Now, okay, go ahead.
But if the need arises for definitive interpretations to refute someone making unlawful innovations and the like, then the learned may supply them. And this is how we should understand what has come down to us from scholars in this field. And Allah Ta'ala knows best.
So here I mentioned something, and this is the point of Imam An-Nawawi here. Not every individual, and I said this before, and some people, listen, we're not allowed to follow cults. Can y'all get that in your mind? Like as a collective, right? We're not following no cult. Even if they don't say they're a cult, we're not following cults. We're Muslims, not cult followers. And a cult never says I'm a cult. Do we follow that? No cult says I'm a cult. They don't do that. They have all the practices of a cult. They do everything a cult does, but no one's going to say I'm a cult leader. That's not going to happen. The person has to recognize that. Do you follow what I'm saying? So you have to learn your religion well enough to see, is this consistent with the religion or is this some cult stuff? You have to be wise like that. So if you think Amin Muhammad is running a cult, okay, then you're not listening, right? And if you becoming a cult follower, you got the problem, not Amin Muhammad, because Imam Amin Muhammad don't tell you to follow no cult, nor no cult practices. Tell you to learn your religion. But if you don't learn your religion, this is your problem, not mine, right? If you just want microwave Islam, you might find yourself in a cult. This is your fault. It's not got anything to do with me, right? And I tell you, don't follow no cult, nor no cult leader. And why am I saying this? Because I mentioned about this issue that common people need to learn the basis of their faith, and some need to stop there because some of us don't have the intellectual capacity to go into deep details without getting confused. Some people don't need that. They just need to know the basic beliefs. It's sound basic beliefs, and that's it. As for details, that may cause them more stress and grief. Now, everyone has the capacity. And I started by saying people are different, right? Sometimes the more you know in details, the more confused you'll get. But that's differs from person to person. Some people must go to another level, right? Do you follow what I'm saying? So, and this is what Imam Nawawi is talking about. In general, what is best to learn the proper belief in Islam that is can be conveyed and with an unbroken chain of transmission, scholarly agreement on it, and that's it. And then practice your religion. When do you need to learn all these details if that's not sufficient? When you start getting confused, then you learn the amount to remove the confusion. Right? Do you follow my point? To remove the amount of confusion. And listen, this is extremely important. Because a lot of us, unfortunately, especially in our communities, we learn details without knowing the basics of our religion. And that's why you notice we've covered all the basics of our religion that you need to know multiple times in the last 3 years on this platform. Maybe some of you are new, so some of you don't realize we've covered several books from cover to cover, word for word, line for line, more than once with different teachers to ensure that you know the basics of your religion, right? And we're going to continue to do that and review it. But there is an important thing that we all need to have: the personal, obligatory knowledge of the religion. That should be our biggest focus in our communities, in this 3453 family. My biggest hope for us as a collective, I'm not talking about individuals, as a collective, that we all know the basics of our religion in a manner that we know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, and we fulfill it to the best of our ability. No one is confused about that. Then among us should be some who go to the next level towards advanced studies in the religious sciences. And those advanced studies should be in the various sciences besides the basics. And then above that, we need some of us to go to the level of scholarship. And this, trust me, we're not going to live to see. So you need to fix your view. We're not going to see that. We're all going to be dead before that occurs. What we can do is lay the foundation, water the soil, plant the seeds, water the soil, nurture the land, and we will begin to see some of the trees grow. But the actual fruit, it's not. We don't have enough time. We're not going to see that. What we can do is make a structure that is sound and sturdy that can be passed to the next generation. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? I'm being honest. And if you don't realize it, you don't realize what I'm asking of us or what we need to do. If you think that we're going to reach the levels that we need to attain in our lifetime, you're deluded. Especially the way we're doing it. It will never happen. I'm being honest. I'll tell you, I was telling someone this. I told you I'm mixing in this my scattered thoughts as well. I have a lot of things on my mind, right? You know, I want to just give you, and this isn't, it's something to raise our aspirations and make us focus. Let me explain something to you. Some people among us, they get angry and they say, when you say we don't have scholars, they get angry. It's not a put down. Some things are true when you understand what is scholarship. If you lower the bar so low that scholarship can be a layman, then of course, in your mind, you have a bunch of laymen, so you have scholars, right? But if you keep scholarship within our tradition and understand what that takes and what it takes to become a scholar and what it looks like, then you'll understand it much clearly. You follow my point? Are y'all following me here? And when we look across the spectrum of our quote unquote learned people, and I'm speaking, I'm not counting myself among them. I'm talking about these guys and women who we look at as scholar, sheikh, blah, 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 all that stuff we say about them. If they were to be honest, they would tell you, I'm nowhere near scholarship. If they be honest, take the best we got among us. If you just be honest, I'm not talking about compared to me. I'm not talking about compared to you. I'm talking about the scale of Islamic scholarship, they don't fit. After 10, 15 years of their own education overseas, sitting with sheikhs, they still don't meet up. They would be honest, they would tell you that. If they're not trying to be cult followers and get followers, just straight honesty. So that means there's a lot to it. And part of the reason why we didn't reach that is because we didn't make the foundation that will produce that. Do you understand the difference? If we don't have the foundation, the environment, the educational system that's going to lead to that level of excellence, it's not going to happen. Do you follow what I'm saying? So our job as a collective is to start making the foundation and the structure and the systematic way of learning so it's designed to produce that in the future. Do you understand what I'm saying? We have to stop ego tripping. It's not about you. You're going to die before we get here. Listen, subhanallah. Am I clear? Is this ambiguous to anyone? If you really don't understand, if you really don't understand, tell me you don't understand. Don't just say yes. Say, I don't understand. Because it's something to encourage us. Because if we keep doing what we're doing, we're never going to get there. We have to make a change. I'll give you an example. Let me read this, and then I want to share a story. Okay, go ahead. Let's continue.
A4.4.
Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. I have multiple things I'm doing at one time. 1 second. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Bismillah.
A4.4. A person is not obliged to learn how to perform ablution, the prayer, and so forth until the act itself is obligatory for him.
And they call this ilm al-hal, meaning that knowledge that you need immediately at the moment. So only time you need to learn as an obligation a certain knowledge is when you have to perform that knowledge, right? And that's what the author is mentioning here, which is Imam Nawawi, right? That when you need this thing, it becomes a personal obligation upon you to learn it. Go ahead.
As for trade, marriage, and so forth, of things not in themselves obligatory, the Imam of the two sanctuaries, comment per Sheikh Abdul Wakil Durubi, Juwaini,
Imam al-Juwayni was the Sheikh of Imam al-Ghazali.
Rahimahullah, Imam Ghazali, Rahimahullah, and others say that learning their means and conditions is personally obligatory for anyone who wants to do them. It
In
is
other words, you cannot go into something before having the knowledge of it, meaning you need to know the legal ruling before you enter something. Mm.
It has also been said that one should not call this knowledge, quote unquote, personally obligatory, but rather say, quote, it is unlawful to undertake them until one knows the conditions for their legal validity, and this expression is more accurate.
Mm.
A4.5. It is obligatory for one to know what is permissible and what is unlawful of food, drink, and clothing, and so forth, of things one is unlikely to be able to do without, and likewise for rulings or on treatment of women if one has a wife.
Okay, let's stop there. So, this section, I need you to review it, right? And to read it well, because all of this in A4.4 and A4.5 is going to take into two types of knowledge: the knowledge which is a personal obligation, and the knowledge which is a communal obligation. As for the personal obligation, it's going to be taken in terms of belief, tenets of faith, and in terms of practical rules, acts of worship, and in terms of spiritual states, or we can better say inward characteristics, right? Those three aspects for all of us are the first things that every one of us need to learn and master and implement in our lives. So we need to learn at the very basic level what are those beliefs, tenets of faith, or creed that we all must know and no one is excused. What are they? This. Let's learn them. In terms of rules and acts of worship, that is a personal obligation on everyone. What are they? And what are the conditions and the integrals and the invalidators? Boom, 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 boom. We got it. What are the spiritual character, the inner states and characteristics related to spirituality that I must remove from me that are bad? And what must I adorn in terms of praiseworthy ones? I learned them. Now I have my basics. Now I have the basics of my deen. That's what is mentioned and intended here. Is that clear? What is lawful, what is unlawful in relation to all of that? And this is why we mention in the 3453, the first three is talking about this, right? Al-Islam, al-Iman, al-Islam, al-Iman, and al-Ihsan, which is an expression of al-fiqh, al-aqidah, al-tasawwuf. That's it. And that, to know what we need to know, is not a lot. To actually learn it is the act. Like, so to know, you need to learn this, and you have the basics of your religion. I can teach you that in 1 hour. Now, that's what you have to do. Now you got to go do it. You have to learn it. I'm going to tell you what you need to learn. That could take 1 hour, 2 hours tops. Now you actually have to learn it and a way to learn it. We're at that stage. Well, some of us still don't know what we need to know, right? And then we have to learn it. And then once we learn it, what we have to do, practice it. That's the foundational level, and we're right there. I get invitations all the time, and people, they come to me and they say, Imam, we want you to come and we want you to teach this. And I tell them all the time, you need to learn this. But no, you don't need. You need to learn your religion properly before all that other stuff you're talking about. And oftentimes that's what they want. They want you to come to entertain them. I'm not interested in entertaining you. You need to learn. All of us, we need to learn our religion. We had enough entertainment. That's how we got in this condition, just being entertained. And it's such thing as Islamic entertainment. We need to learn our religion. We need to learn what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed for us to learn in terms of the religious knowledge. And then we need to preserve it and practice it. That doesn't mean we can't do anything else, but we should know our priorities. Do y'all follow me? We should know our priorities. Ignorance should not be a source of bliss and joy for us. And when I say ignorance, ignorance of the religion. We shouldn't be happy that this is our state and content with it and no desire to change the state. Now let me tell you the story to give you an example. How many of you love Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz? We just celebrated and commemorated his birthday. Malcolm X, how many of you love him? Say aye or yes, just yes. How many of you love Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz or Malcolm X? Say yes. This is going to take me a couple minutes. How many of you love him? Tell me. Okay. This is going to be something that I want us to think about. And it'll give you an example of what I'm telling you. I love Malcolm X. Oh, yeah, Malcolm X. Okay, great. We all love him. Tayyib. He started, after he left the NOI, Nation of Islam, he started 2 organizations. What were they? Oh, lovers of Malcolm X. What were they? He started 2 organizations. What were they? Tell me. There's something to think about. I want us to think about this.
Don't rub it in.
Okay, that's one, Muslim Mass Incorporated and the OAAU, right? Okay. What was the difference between the 2 organizations? What were the difference between the 2 organizations? Okay, religious and political. So the Muslim Mass Incorporated was the religious. Okay. What was the methodology of Islamic learning, religious learning, for the Muslim Mass Incorporated? Give me the structure of it. In the foundations of the religion, Al-Iman, Al-Islam, and Al-Ihsan. Does anyone know? What was their methodology? What was their way of learning? Who were their teachers? What were their books? And what was the direction? Tell me. Okay, tell you. All right. A lot of I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. I'm guessing I don't know. Just say I don't know. It's cool. We don't know. Right? When he died, when he was assassinated, rahmatullah alayhi, what happened to his organization? Muslim Mass Incorporated. I'm specifically talking about that. What happened to it? I'm trying to show us something. What happened to it? I discovered some things. It was alarming to me, which made me really, really concentrate on what we're talking about now. What happened to it? Right. What happened to it? It was not able to continue. Then the way it continued, it didn't never continue as Muslim Mass Incorporated. And the way it continued, even under that name, was by a person today who is not even a Muslim. You ever thought about that? The person who ultimately was selected to take the name. We're not talking about the how and the why. The person who ultimately took the name today is not a Muslim. That's deep. Murtad, apostate. And when and this is just facts. I'm not being critical. I just want us to think about us. Right? I want to think about us as a people when I'm talking about preservation. And when that person became the leader, the so-called imam, he didn't know anything about Islam at all. He didn't even learn the basics of Islam. And he was the imam, the so-called successor of the movement of Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz. He didn't even know the basics of Islam. Do you understand what I'm aiming at here? I'm not criticizing. I want us to think about us. Do we keep making the same mistake? Do we keep making the same mistake? Don't look at it as a criticism. And I keep telling you all the time, we want to deal with fact, fiction, and opinion, right? Forget the emotional part of it. We are humans. We have emotions. We do. But we need to get it out the way to deal with reality. And I was thinking about this. So he named this individual, forget his name. He named the people he was teaching, the people who taught him. And they had movements. And some of those movements don't exist no more for the same reason. And some of those movements exist today, but still not following traditional classic Islam properly. That's some serious stuff to think about. If we be critical and real. So after Malcolm X, all the way to this day, we're still at the beginning stages and don't realize it. And how many years ago was that? Almost 58 years later, we're still in the same state. Now, ask you, see where we're at now. Do any of us got another 58 years most likely to live? Does any one of us have 58 years of probable life expectancy who are adults? No, not one of us. Do you see the severity of the work we have to do? Now you understand what I'm saying? That's just one organization. We could go around the country and see a lot. And this is a constant thing that's happening in our communities, that we're not getting it as a group, as a collective. One leader, two leaders, that leader dies, and boom, it all collapses. Or we're staying in the perpetual state of a beginning cycle over and over and over and over and over and over again, and never excel. That's because the foundation is not set up correctly in terms of religion. Now, we would get sometimes emotional about it and not deal with reality. Be like, man, no, it's true. Forget about us. Don't take it personal. We talking, looking down the road, what it's going to look like if we keep doing what we're doing. And we have, from looking in the past, we see what happened, and all we got to look and see we're doing the same thing. It's not working. So we have to do something different. And I would put forth that different thing that we have to do is actually learning our religion in a systematic, comprehensive way with an unbroken chain of transmission. Right? That's what we need to do as a collective. And we all have to ensure that we all get it. That's a collective work. That's not no individual work. That's not something I can do alone or you can do alone. We have to do it collectively. And we have to ensure, and that's why I said on the ground, that we all make sure we learn. That's a lot of work. And that work is going to take decades. Decades. But the next generation will inherit something. This is not strange. It's done all around the world. It is the Sunni way. It's not strange. I'm not suggesting something that hasn't been done over and over and over for 1,400 years around the world. It's done. We have to do it. Do you understand my point? It's not impossible. It's been done. And all over the world, we have to do it. And this is where, no matter how hard I try to ignore it sometimes because it's painful, Black people have the game has been ran on them so bad we don't even realize it's a game no more. Black Muslims have been played and hoodwinked and bamboozled, especially, and we have to change that. Seriously. And I see it as plain as see myself in this camera. We have to fix it. I hope you understand my point. And we have to be patient and realize that we're just setting the foundation. That's it. So, Ihab, your question, are we going to be held accountable, which is his question here, are we going to be held accountable for the lack of learning everything about the religion? No, not everything. We're going to be held accountable as individuals for not learning that knowledge, which is a personal obligation, far'ain. If we leave that out, we are committing a kabira, a major sin. Everything about the deen, there are some things everyone must know, And there are some things only a portion of people need to know. So not everything you're going to be held accountable for. What we all will be held accountable for is the personal knowledge. العلم الذي هو فرع عين علينا. That's what we're going to be held accountable for. That knowledge, which is a personal obligation. As for that knowledge, which is a communal, fard kifaya, some of the people are going to be held accountable for that. And that's what Imam Nawawi mentioned. And this is the point. It's not for us to hurt. It's for us to realize and then do something about it. We can't keep doing the same thing. If someone doesn't tell us, hey, stop doing that, I did that already, it don't work, we don't know. That's why history is important, so you can look at it, not ignore it. Don't keep doing the same thing. You know, we were all told, the one who keeps doing the same thing and expect to get a different results is a fool, right? It's insanity to keep doing the same thing and think you're going to get a different result. So for us, we have to learn. We have to study history. We have to see what's going on, and we have to fix it. And everything is available for us to do it. Do you follow what I'm saying? Am I clear? No ambiguity. And we need to do this ourselves. Meaning, you have to take self-responsibility as a people. No one's going to do it for you. They haven't done it for you, so that should be obvious. If they did it for us, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Right? We wouldn't be having a conversation if someone was going to do it for us. They would have done it already. You're funny, Marshall. That's funny. She wants 100K. MashaAllah. And we got our brothers crying about 5K, and she want 100. Get your weight up. That's my advice. Oh my goodness. She may be worth 100,000. I don't know. If she's worth it, she's worth it. She must think highly of herself. That's nothing, though. I've seen more than that, depending who she is and her family and background, and maybe she's worth it. I don't say she's not. I don't know. You should value that. You may be marrying into a royal family or a family that does very well, and they want to maintain their status. So they don't allow their daughter to marry anyone who cannot maintain that status, which is okay. Nothing wrong with it. So you should select someone who wants 20,000, not 100. And since you're willing to give 20,000, there are many sisters that are looking for husbands. So pay 20 to one of those sisters who would take that with ease. MashaAllah. May Allah make it easy for you. So am I clear? Am I clear? Any questions in this issue? I want to see a better future for all of us. We have a lot of work to do, right? And we're not doing it. Really, because people are even afraid to tell us. Like people they don't tell us. I don't know why we're afraid of the truth. Like we have like a disease. It's like We're allergic to truth. Come on, man. Truth will set you free. Even if it's painful in the beginning, it will set you free. Be a lover of the truth. Be a lover of the truth. And that's what made Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz to me so great. He was a lover of the truth. And soon as he discovered the truth, he changed. That was him. That's what made him so great to me. Whenever he was wrong and discovered the truth, he changed. Even if it didn't make him look so good, he was concerned about the truth. And that's how we should be. May Allah make it easy for us. Allahu Akbar. One of our sisters, she passed, and her janazah is today. Her name is Sister Basima. May we recite Al-Fatiha for her soul, that Allah forgives her for her sins, raises her rank, and make her join in the ranks of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-Fatiha. We have a conference coming up. We're going to do another one. Not the same, but I think it's very important. It will be coming up soon. So we're putting it together. So we should be having, I would like sometime in July and August, but I have to get the speakers together. A very important conference that we need to have, different from the summit. It won't be as big as the summit, but it will be more concentrated on something that I think is extremely important. I won't tell you exactly what until we get it together, so no one borrows our idea, right? So it will be coming up, inshallah, maybe July or August, depending, at latest September, but I don't want to go all the way to September. But I will be letting you know, inshallah. So start saving your money. I'm figuring the tickets for the event will be like $50. And so start saving your money. It's less than the summit, but I think you will enjoy it. But I won't announce fully what it is until we have all the speakers in line. So look to those who can to attend back to Atlantic City late July, mid-July to mid-August, at max late August. So we're looking. So this is May, June, July, like two months, 2.5 months, 2 months away, inshallah ta'ala. Let's see how it goes. I'm working on it now. I think it's gonna be very good, but I have to put everything together, inshallah. So mark your calendars for late July, early August, mid-August, somewhere around there. But we have a lot of work in this regard. And it's better that you hear it from more than me. Because sometimes if you seem like it's one person or two people, it seems like we got a cult going on. MashaAllah. Tell you, may Allah reward you all. Yeah. Be gentle on each other. We're all in the process of learning. One of my biggest mistakes that I made, and sometimes I think I still make it, I'm trying to balance it out, but it's difficult for me for multiple reasons. It's sometimes I can be too critical on people who have bad ideas due to no fault of their own, actually based out of their sincerity. They just didn't know. And sometimes we can be too critical on them. This is something that I know myself I need to work on, right? Give people a chance and be patient in their transitional stages in learning of religion. Not everyone's at the same spot at the same time. Be patient. You know, some people might not get it right away. It may take time. And we should be patient and merciful to them, just as we wanted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be patient and merciful. And when I say patient, not punish us quickly, right? Give us time and to get where we've reached and to get where we're trying to go. So, like we give that for ourselves, give it for others. Don't be so critical, especially to our people who have been deceived intentionally, I believe. So be patient, right? One day, inshallah, we'll get it. Inshallah. All right, Tayyip, barakallahu bikum. May Allah reward you. Inshallah, for those who would be able to attend the janazah for the sister, it's at Masjid Muhammad at 11 o'clock in the morning. And inshallah, we'll see you then. Barakallahu bikum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.